Which Ford killed the most? The price of the blue oval's mistake. For more than a century, Ford Motor Company has given the world legends, from the history-changing Model T to the indomitable Mustang and America's best-selling F-150. Ford is a symbol of American strength and engineering. However, behind the glitter of these icons lies a dark side. For decades, the blue oval produced cars that became nightmares for owners, financial failures for the company, and, worst of all, downright life-threatening. Today, we're not just talking about boring, ugly, or unreliable models. We'll be compiling a list of the 10 worst Ford vehicles, remembered for their catastrophic breakdowns, scandalous quality issues, and, in some cases, tragic consequences caused by corporate negligence. Our focus is on one car that will forever be etched into history as a symbol of disregard for safety. This is the Ford whose history begs the question, which Ford killed the most? Don't forget, if you enjoy automotive history, full of scandals and failures, like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next installments. And let us know in the comments which Ford failure you consider the biggest. Let's begin our dive into the darkest chapters of Ford history.
Number 10. 1974 Ford Maverick, symbol of the age of austerity, victim of design and engineering fatigue. The Ford Maverick hit the market in 1970 as a direct response to the growing popularity of imported compact cars, like the Volkswagen Beetle and Toyota Corolla. The goal was clear: create a simple, affordable, mass-market car. Initially, it was a resounding success, but unfortunately, this success did not last. By 1974, the Maverick had become a shining example of how Ford, in its pursuit of maximum economy and rapid production, created compromised vehicles. We include this model year on our list of worst because it most clearly demonstrates the platform's weaknesses. Problem number 1. Design nightmare, bumper cushion. Perhaps the most notable failure of 1974 was caused not by Ford engineers, but by government regulations. Federal standards came into effect requiring bumpers to withstand a 5-mile-per-hour impact without damaging the body. Result? Ford engineers didn't spend money on an elegant redesign. Instead, they simply slapped massive, protruding, and oversized bumpers on the Maverick, completely destroying the already modest yet clean design. The car began to look awkward and heavy, losing any remaining aesthetic appeal. Problem number 2. Outdated engineering and quality. The Maverick was built on a modified, already outdated Ford Falcon platform, which created reliability issues that couldn't be concealed by the low price. Handling. The car suffered from an archaic suspension and a heavy V8 available as an option, making its handling rough and unpredictable, especially compared to its more agile Japanese and European competitors. Corrosion. Like many Ford vehicles of the era, the Maverick lacked adequate corrosion protection. Rust was its constant companion, eating away at the bodywork, especially around the wheel arches and fuel tank mount. Engine issues. By 1974, Ford was forced to reduce engine power, even the 302 cubic inch V8, due to stricter emissions regulations. This resulted in sluggish performance, carburetor problems, and an inability to deliver the claimed fuel efficiency amid the fuel crisis. Why is it on the list? The 1974 Ford Maverick is the quintessential embodiment of the American automotive crisis of the 1970s. Unattractive, technologically outdated, plagued by corrosion issues, and unable to compete with imports in quality and efficiency. It is remembered not as a winner, but as a mediocrity that Ford quickly replaced, consigning it to the dustbin of history.
Number 9. 1974 Ford Mustang II, a pony car transformed into a Pinto car. The Ford Mustang II, introduced in 1974, model year 1974, is perhaps the most infamous car in the history of the famous Mustang family. It symbolized Ford's abandonment of its racing roots in favor of mediocrity and economy. Capital sin: the Pinto platform. The Mustang II's biggest problem was its underpinnings. Instead of a powerful platform inherited from the Falcon like the first generation, the Mustang II was built on the chassis of a Ford Pinto. The legendary pony car was essentially transformed into a luxury version of the budget and infamous Pinto. Weakness: the new model was smaller, heavier, and most importantly, completely lacking in power. There was no V8 under the hood, which appeared later, but was very weak, and the standard engine was a four-cylinder that produced only 88 horsepower. Performance: in 1974, the Mustang II was slow, had mediocre handling, and absolutely did not live up to the proud Mustang name. A commercial, but not a spiritual failure. Lee Iacocca, creator of the original Mustang, insisted on creating the Mustang II as the right car for the right time, given the oil crisis. And he was right. Sales success: in its first year, thanks to the fuel-efficient trend, the Mustang II became Motor Trend's Car of the Year and sold well. However, for fans, this was a betrayal. The Mustang II will forever be remembered as the anti-Mustang, a car that lacked speed, style, or muscle, offering only a budget base and minimal power. The Mustang II isn't just a bad car, it's a brand failure. Ford sacrificed the spirit and performance of its most iconic model for the sake of cheapness and temporary economic feasibility, earning the hatred of generations of fans.
Number 8. 1971 Ford Pinto, a car worth $11 and lives. We couldn't start our list without this car. The 1971 Ford Pinto wasn't just a failure or an ugly car. It became synonymous with corporate negligence and went down in history as the most dangerous Ford ever built. Tragic defect: exploding gas tank. The Pinto was created in an incredible rush to compete with cheap Japanese imports. Engineers were limited in their design choices, a price no higher than $2,000 and a weight no more than 2,000 pounds. This race to save money led to a fatal design flaw: fuel tank location. The fuel tank was mounted too close to the rear axle and too far from the differential. In a rear-end collision at relatively low speeds, less than 30 miles per hour, sharp differential bolts or the axle itself could puncture the fuel tank. A fuel leak, a spark, and the car would burst into flames, turning into a fire trap. The cost of a human life scandal. What made the Pinto not just a failure, but a catastrophic one, was Ford's knowledge of the defect. Internal company documents leaked to the press revealed a shocking analysis, dubbed the cost-benefit analysis. Cost of repair: $11 per vehicle. Installation of a simple protective cover. Cost of defect: Ford valued a human life at $200,000 and calculated that the total impact of paying out death and injury claims would be less than the cost of recalling and repairing all Pintos sold. Ford consciously decided that a sunny life was worth less than the cost of a redesign. This scandal led to charges against Ford, a massive recall of over 1.5 million vehicles, and cemented the Pinto's reputation as a robber on wheels. This is the main reason why the Ford Pinto tops the list of modern and most tragic cars of all time.
Number 7. The 1977 Ford LTD2, a bloated ship that lost its purpose, is a perfect example of Ford's failure to respond to a changing market. While its main competitor, General Motors, was downsizing its full-size cars, Ford emerged with a behemoth that was larger than its full-size sibling, yet incredibly inefficient. Problem number 1: ridiculous dimensions and an outdated platform. The LTD2 was essentially a rebadged 1972 Torino Montego platform, a mid-size giant. Ford marketed the LTD2 as a mid-size car, but at over 18 feet long, it was one of the most demanding mid-size cars ever built. Bad packaging. Despite its exterior dimensions, the technology space was unexpectedly cramped, especially in the rear seats. Its bulk was primarily due to its long hood and generous trunk, making it extremely inefficient in terms of visual space. Floating handling.
With its outdated frame lamp and soft, spongy suspension, the LTD2 fully embodied the sofa on wheels stereotype. Its handling was imprecise, road feedback was absent, and rolling corners resembled a sailboat in a storm. Problem number 2, incredible greed for gas. The LTD2's release coincided with a sharp rise in fuel prices. However, its heavyweight and detuned V8 engines, for example, the base 302 V8, which produced a measly 130-140 horsepower, led to disastrous fuel consumption, easily reaching 18 to 20 liters per 100 kilometers in the city. The Ford LTD2 was a marketing and engineering failure. It was built on a fundamentally flawed platform, with poor fuel economy and atrocious handling at a time when customers were demanding just the opposite. It was a pointless, bloated car which Ford quickly discontinued, admitting its mistake.
Number 6. 1978 Ford Fairmont Futura. Introduced in 1978, the Futura Coupe and its predecessor marked the birth of the famed Fox body platform, light, rigid, and well-handling, which ultimately saved Ford and became the Mustang. But the Fairmont itself fell victim to the terrible build quality and underpowered engines of the era. Problem number 1. Stifled engines and lack of power. The Fairmont Futura was an economical car, but despite meeting the strict standards of young people in the late 1970s, its engines were literally stifled. The base four-cylinder Lima, 2.3 liters, it produced only 88 horsepower, and the car weighed nearly 1,250 kilograms. The result? Slow and noisy acceleration, which is not a sign of even modest expectations. V8 with limitations. Even the top-of-the-line 302 V8, 4.9 liters, installed in the Futura, was tuned to only 139 horsepower, an absurdly low figure for a V8. Emission systems. Complex and unreliable control systems that frequently malfunctioned caused idle problems, poor carburetor performance, and overall poor reliability, especially on older models. Problem number 2. Disastrous build quality. While the platform design was progressive, the execution was abysmal, typical of most American cars of the late 1970s. Cheap interior. The interior was made of low-quality plastic and vinyl that quickly faded, cracked, and crumbled. While attempting to be a personal luxury coupe, the Futura simply added more low-quality luxury, artificial luxury. Electrical and trim. Electrical system malfunctions, leaking seals, poorly fitted body panels, and rapidly rusting metal were all commonplace. Cars quickly lost their exterior features and the necessary tools for minor repairs. The Fox body paradox. The Fairmont Futura was one of the most boring and poorly built cars ever built on a platform later made legendary by the Mustang and other hot rods. It was a good engineering idea, ruined by a quality crisis and the era of detuned engines.
Number 5. 1980 Ford Escort, a world car failure and questionable quality. The North American Ford Escort was released in late 1980 as a 1981 model and was intended to be a world car and a direct response to the Volkswagen Golf, or Rabbit. It represented Ford's transition to front-wheel drive and replaced the unsuccessful Pinto. However, the American version turned out to be the complete opposite of the successful European Mk3 Escort. Problem number 1. CVH engine. Too much vibration and noise. The heart of the Escort was the new CVH, compound angle hemispherical, engine, which was supposed to be high-tech and efficient. In reality, it was nicknamed considerable vibration and harshness. Roughness and noise. The engine was known for its excessive vibration and loud, unpolished noise, especially at high RPM. Journalists of the time described it as a coffee grinder under the hood. Sludge problem. The CVH lubrication system was poorly designed, resulting in rapid oil sludge formation that clogged the oil passages. This often resulted in premature wear of the camshaft and lifters, leading to costly repairs or even complete engine replacement. Weak power.
The 1.6-liter CVH produces only about 65 to 70 HP off the line, which combined with suboptimal gear ratios, including a stretched fourth gear for EPA ratings, made the car extremely slow and strained. Problem number 2, poorly tuned chassis. While the Escort was front-wheel drive, which was an improvement, the suspension in the early years of production was in poor condition. Clubby suspension. Many examples had positive camber on the front suspension, making the car appear bow-legged, which negatively impacted handling and tire wear. Incoherence. The Escort suffered from excessive roll and pitch, and the shock absorbers were weak, causing the car to bob over bumps. Its ride quality felt raw and didn't provide the direction it should have been following, like a VW Golf. Problem number 3, the worst of all worlds. The Escort was intended to be a world car, but the American and European versions differed greatly, leading to a loss of quality. The American Escort didn't share a single exterior body panel with the Corner, making global quality control difficult. The build quality and materials were typical of the era: a comfortable interior, quick wear, and a propensity for repair. Many early Escorts were simply used and discarded, becoming spare parts donors. Number 4, 1967 Ford Fairlane 500, yesterday's reliability. In 1967, the Fairlane 500 was based on a platform that was somewhat understated compared to its competitors and suffered from the design issues common to American cars of the 1960s. Problem number 1, brakes and handling on base models. Despite this being the year the Fairlane received key safety features like a dual-circuit brake system, base Fairlane 500 models still featured unpowered drum brakes on all 4 wheels. Weak braking. The drum brakes were ineffective for a relatively heavy vehicle, especially with repeated use, such as in the city or on downhill grades. Overheating. They quickly overheated and lost effectiveness, a fading effect. Handling. Although the Fairlane was known for its better handling than full-size Ford tanks, the standard suspension tuning was soft and comfort-oriented, but it had a significant lean in corners. Important. GT/GTA models were offered with optional and sometimes standard front disc brakes, which addressed this issue. However, this was not the norm for the Fairlane 500. Problem number 2, prone to corrosion, rust. Like most American cars of the era, the Fairlane had poor rust-proofing. Typical rust spots, these cars exhibited persistent rust, especially in areas where moisture and dirt accumulated. Wheel arches and sills, around headlights and bumpers, door edges and underbody. Structural issues. Over time, corrosion could become a structural problem, significantly complicating and increasing the cost of restoration. Problem number 3, plain Jane trim. The 500 was a step up from the Fairlane, but still remained a workhorse with Spartan equipment. Interior. The interior was functional, but lacked luxury or amenities. Engines. While powerful V8s were available, most Fairlane 500s were sold with the base 289 V8, approximately 200 horsepower, or even an inline-6 engine, 200 CID, approximately 120 horsepower, providing very modest performance for its size.
Number 3, 1955 Ford Mainline. Problems of a budget car in the 1950s. The 1955 Mainline was a reliable, simple car for its time, but as a base model, it had some shortcomings that were addressed in more expensive or later versions. Problem number 1, 6-volt electrical system, 1955 versus 1956. The biggest drawback of the 1955, which drives many collectors to seek out the 1956 model, is the electrical system. 6-volt system. The 1955 Mainline used a conservative 6-volt or 6V electrical system, while competitors, and Ford in 1956, switched to a 12-volt or 12V system. Complexity. The 6V system required the ideal wiring and connections to provide sufficient current, especially for starting the engine in cold weather. This prevented the installation of modern accessories, such as powerful audio systems or air conditioning. Weak light. The 6V headlights were noticeably dimmer than those of modern cars, likely due to nighttime driving. Problem number 2. Handling and brakes of the pre-muscle car era. Like the Fairlane, the mainline suffered from the design limitations of its time. Drum brakes. Large-diameter brakes on all 4 wheels were better than those of their predecessors, but they still tended to overheat and lose effectiveness under heavy use. Great handling. The non-powered steering was poor, requiring many turns of the steering wheel from lock to lock, and difficult, especially when parking. It was comfortable, but not a sporty car. Problem number 3. Y-block engine issues, early design. New for 1954, the Y-block V8 engine was a technological leap, but suffered from early reliability issues. Lubrication design. Early versions of the Y-block V8, available in the mainline, had problems with the top-end oil system, which could lead to rocker arm and valve train wear over time if the oil wasn't maintained properly. Prone to sludge. Like the Escort, though for different reasons, the Y-block was known for its tendency to form sludge if improperly maintained. Problem number 4. Budget equipment and rust. The mainline was a workhorse and lacked many of the options available on the Fairlane. Skimping on finish. The exterior and interior design was minimalist, especially compared to the chrome-laden Fairlane, which was fine for a budget model, but made it less appealing. Like the 1967 Fairlane, the 1955 mainline was built during the era of high-quality rust-proofing, so it suffered from persistent, severe rust in areas where moisture accumulated: underbody, rocker panels, and lower fenders.
Number 2. 1974 Ford Torino Elite. This is the third-generation Torino and is essentially a luxury coupe on a massive platform. Its shortcomings were primarily its large size, weight, and the period when performance declined sharply. Problem number 1, lack of power, Slate-era engines. This car's biggest problem is its poor performance, caused by new emissions regulations. Strangled engines. Even with a sunny exterior, a V8 like the 351 Windsor, 5.8 liters, or 400 Cleveland, 6.6 liters, was throttled by low compression ratios, catalytic converters, and the stability of constant control. Low power. Power is typically only 150 to 200 HP, with a curb weight reaching 2 tons. This resulted in very high acceleration, which belied the aggressive appearance. Fuel consumption. However, the large, underpowered engine still consumes a lot of fuel, especially by modern standards. Problem number 2. Build quality and fatigue. Cars of this era were generally not known for their high build quality, rust, or corrosion. The Elite, like other 1970s Ford models, was notorious for its poor rust resistance. Corrosion often affected the lower edges of the doors and fenders, the base of the vinyl roofs, if equipped, where moisture was trapped under the vinyl, floors, and trunk. Such a soft design, the heavy body and comfort-oriented frame construction resulted in a car that felt spongy or floating on the road, rather than sporty. Problem number 3. Comfort features and operation. The Elite was a luxury car, but its systems required attention. Vacuum systems, many luxury features such as hidden headlights, relied on vacuum actuators which over time became leaky and began to make noise. Electrical issues. The wiring in older American cars from the 1970s often leaves much to be desired, which can lead to malfunctions in instruments, lighting, or the air conditioning. Brakes. Despite the presence of disc brakes in the front, they were still insufficiently effective for such a heavy car, especially under emergency braking. The 1974 Ford Torino Elite is a beautiful, comfortable, and relatively easy-to-maintain classic car. However, its main weaknesses are its lack of performance due to the limitations of the 1970s and its tendency to steer. Collectors often solve the problem by installing modern components: carburetor, intake manifold, and exhaust.
Number 1. The 1962 Ford Galaxie 500 is a simple, robust frame-on-frame car, making it relatively easy to maintain. However, like any car of its era, it has its share of historical flaws, especially important for today's owners. Problem number 1. Rust, corrosion.
Like almost all cars of its era, corrosion is a major problem. Ford made efforts to reduce it, but it remains a major issue for surviving examples. Weak points. Rust often appears in areas such as fenders and poorly maintained rocker panels due to the drainage system. Rear window area. Water accumulates in the seals. Trunk and cabin floor, especially if the car has been parked outdoors for a long time. Frame condition. Although built on a robust ladder frame, the suspension and frame mounts should be carefully inspected on the structural frame. Problem number 2. Handling and brakes, safety era. Cars from the 1960s were designed for comfort, not sporty handling or emergency braking. Drum brakes. The standard drum brakes on all 4 wheels are completely inadequate for the car's weight and reliable speed, especially with the large V8 engine. They overheat and lose effectiveness with repeated use. Soft suspension and heavy weight result in significant body lean in turns and a floating feel on the road. Slow steering. Even with power steering, the steering is slow and imprecise by modern standards. Problem number 3. FE Series engines, 352, 390 V8. While FE Series engines, such as the 352 and 390 V8, are classic and robust, they have their own characteristics typical of older engines. Fuel consumption. These large V8 engines achieve higher fuel consumption by today's standards. Oil leaks. Seals and gaskets may need replacement over time to correct oil leaks typical of engines of that era. Problem number 4. Parts and electrical. Lack of finish. While mechanical and FE Series engine parts are readily available, exterior and interior parts, chrome, moldings, and signature Galaxy 500 interior trim can be expensive and expensive. Original wiring, while simple, can be fragile or have worn insulation after 6 floors, requiring attention or complete replacement. The 1962 Ford Galaxy 500 is a classic from the golden age of American automobiles. It's easy to repair, has a solid mechanical foundation, and boasts stunning style. However, driving it requires attention to detail and perhaps modern brakes and suspension to cope with modern road conditions.